Mr. Loughlin, you've signed an Americans for Prosperity pledge vowing to oppose any legislation relating to climate change that includes a net increase in government revenue. Do you believe that global climate change is a problem we need to address? If so, how would you address the problem and how would you fund those solutions?
Again, that's a great question, Ed. And, you know, I'm not a scientist, but I did work for NASA. And when I was at NASA, we had a scientist who I actually did some of the press release work for by the name of Dr. James Hansen at the Goddard Institute for Space Studies. Dr. Hansen released a peer-reviewed paper in the 70s that talked about global cooling. And then it's only later that he's kind of gotten a conversion to global warming. You know, the IPCC had the leaked emails. I think there's no scientific consensus, and I think it's foolhardy to link tax policy to science when there is really not a scientific consensus on human-caused global warming at this point. So I think the two need to be extricated from each other, and I think that the scientific community needs to develop a better consensus.
May I respond to that? This is another big difference between me and Representative Loughlin. I believe global climate change is real. I believe we have a responsibility to address it and do whatever we can to protect our environment and develop and produce renewable clean energy. I believe it's an opportunity for America to lead the world again in the production, development, and production of renewable clean energy. And when Representative Loughlin is out publicly talking about global climate change, he mocks it, that it's not serious. This is a serious issue. We have a responsibility to reduce carbon emissions, to address global climate change that is caused by pollution. There is broad scientific consensus on that issue. There is no question that is broad scientific consensus that is, in fact, the cause of global climate change. And in addition to being, let me just finish, in addition to being an environmental issue, in addition to being a national security issue, in addition to being an economic issue, this is an opportunity for America to lead the world in the development, the science, the research around it, the production of renewable energy.
All right, go ahead. And I would submit that the cap-and-trade bill, which my opponent supports, would neither make the environment better or help our economy, because what happens is it punishes producers that have large carbon footprints. These producers just move their operations overseas where environmental regulations are even less stringent than they are in the United States. And so you actually make the environment worse, at the same time destroy jobs in the United States. And it's that kind of policy that says, I'm going to go ahead and link tax policy to data, to scientific data, that leads to really bad outcomes in our economy. And I think it's a bad policy, and I wish you wouldn't support cap-and-trade for those reasons.
We have waded into cap-and-trade.
Thank you.
So.
The reality is, whether the answer is cap-and-trade or cap-and-invest, I think we can have a discussion about what's the right answer to this. But you have to first fundamentally believe in global climate change, that it's caused by pollution, and that there's something we should and can and must do about it. So when you don't even agree that the science is there, you can't really have... I let you finish. May I be permitted to finish? Then you can have a real conversation. There are real problems with cap and trade. There are real problems with cap and invest. But this is an issue which we have got to figure out. We need to invest in producing and developing clean energy. We need to deal with the reality of what carbon emissions are doing to our environment. And we can't have a real discussion about it if you don't believe in it.
It's not something you believe in. It's not like the Easter Bunny, Mayor.
No, it's science.
It's science. And the scientific consensus is not there. And until we have the scientific consensus, and look at the IPCC data, they can't even agree on it. They think that the books were cooked. These are the scientists that are
scientific. Are you saying you don't believe in global climate change? You don't believe in the science?
The Earth is warming, but it's not conclusive.
Caused by pollution.
It's caused by man. It's not conclusive. I
so
mean,
you don't believe in global climate change?
94% of the carbon emissions, which you so want to get rid of, are caused by nature.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to education.